After the conclusion of the 2023 NFL Draft, it's been announced that the Denver Broncos have agreed to terms with 12 undrafted free agents. Those players include Art Green, the corner out of Houston, Alec Palshweski, offensive lineman out of Illinois, Thomas Incoom, edge rusher out of Central Michigan, Devon Matthews, safety out of Indiana, Nate Atkins, the tight end out of South Carolina, Emmanuel Wilson, running back out of Fort Valley State, Chris Leach, the tight end out of Kent State, Nate Atkins, the tight end out of South Carolina, Taylor Grimes, the wide receiver out of Incarnate Word, I've never even heard of that school, Seth Benson, the linebacker out of Iowa, Dallas Daniels, wide receiver out of Jackson State, and PJ Mustipher, the defensive tackle out of Penn State. Now, in my opinion, there are three guys that really intrigue me as potential undrafted free agents who could make the Denver Broncos 53-man roster this August. Those players include Alex Palshweski. He's somebody who I really think could be a fringe guy, so he's actually more of a bonus guy. But the actual three players that I really feel like could make it are Emmanuel Wilson, PJ Mustipher, and Art Green. So let's start off with Art Green because he was one of the guys that the Denver Broncos actually really prioritized as an undrafted free agent. So in his career, 3 years with the Houston Cougars, he had 59 solo tackles, 17 assists, 3 TFLs, and 3 interceptions. He measures in at 6'2" and 200 pounds. So he's a guy who brings some speed and size as a corner, and he has a chance to potentially carve himself out a role as either a special teams guy or just a depth guy for us. The next guy that I want to highlight is Emmanuel Wilson, the running back out of Fort Valley State. He measures in at 5'11", 220 pounds, and runs a 4.52 40. He is 23 years old, and he, in 2 seasons at Fort Valley State, played in 16 games and carried the rock 331 times for 2,087 yards rushing, which is a whopping 6.3 average. That is insane, along with 22 rushing touchdowns. And in the receiving game, he had 31 catches for 278 yards, 9.4 average, and 2 touchdowns. So he's a guy the Denver Broncos really need a speedy, more explosive back, and potentially Emmanuel Smith could fill that role for us. And the third guy that I want to highlight is PJ Mustipher. He's a guy that actually could have gone as early as the 5th round. So the fact that the Denver Broncos got him as an undrafted free agent could be a potential steal. I want to read you the description on PJ Mustipher from Marcus Whitman, that franchise guy. Excuse me. He does really fantastic work in terms of NFL draft evaluations. So Mustipher is an admirable prospect in that he is exactly what he shows, and Mustipher is an admirable prospect in that he is exactly what he is and shows no qualms about it. He was a very good rotational run defender over the last 5 years for Penn State, and has a fair chance at carving out an identical role as a 3rd or 4th man in a D-line rotation at the NFL level. However, he's a 2-down player with a laughable projection as a pass rusher, where his poor athleticism helped him to an anemic 4 pressures on 260 pass rush snaps last year. That said, he has value in an NFL where big physical D tackles willing to defend the run grow harder and harder to find. So, PJ Mustipher is a guy that, once again, on a Denver Broncos defensive line that could really use some rotational guys, he's got a chance to potentially carve himself out a role as a rotational early down run defender, essentially. So I'm curious, guys, out of this list of undrafted free agents, who do you feel like has the best chance to make the final 53 for the Denver Broncos? And who do you feel like is somebody else that is still available on the undrafted free agent market that the Denver Broncos should pick up? Drop those comments down below. I would love to hear from you. Be sure to leave a like on this video as well as subscribe and ring the bell so these videos appear in your notification feed. And until next time, Broncos country, this has been another episode of Denver Broncos Syndicate. I am your host, Gage Madrid, saying peace out.